Alright, we've got another video of another one of our cyclists. This is going to be Shelly, and Shelly admits that she's a little bit skittish on riding her gravel bike on some descents. There's a lot of gravel rides here in the Carolinas, and she came to us looking to kind of advance and up her game. And I'm a big fan of starting basic and then seeing what we've got and working away from it. First thing I wanted to notice, and here you guys will see, is that this is a killer bike that Shelly's got. My only concern is that with her road bike, these brake hoods are a lot smaller and they're closer to the pocket of her thumb and her index finger. So when she goes to shift, you'll see that, well, she doesn't really shift, but her natural habitat or her natural comfort level is to move away from having her hand here, having her hands in here, and they have a tendency to drift back to there, to that position. So that position for a road cyclist or a gravel rider is not a very good position for having control of the bicycle, because if you have to react, you're going to have to react quickly to get to your brakes, which are right here. Sorry about that. Brakes are right here, or even to shift. She's going to have to move her hand up this way so that she could tap that left to go from the small chain ring to the big chain ring. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll it and just watch her hand position and see what happens. But she typically, I'll turn that down a little bit. Do you see how her hand just slid back? Great position on the bike. You can tell that Shelly, when you'll see throughout the video, that she is very comfortable on a bicycle. But this hand position has me thinking we've got to shorten the stem just a little bit. Unfortunately for her, we may have to go to a stem that's smaller than we should, but that's to be determined. But you can see right here, her hand is in a neutral position. It's kind of not really here. It's not really here. It's kind of in between. So Shelly and I talked about that afterwards, that we may have to work on that to make it a successful situation for her when she goes to ride. So that being said, of course, my video went, don't want that. Sorry about that. We'll get rid of this sucker. Come back to Shelly. All right, so we'll just roll through it a little bit. But very good cadence, posture on the bike. Everything is solid. When she went to go to the brake, to the drops, just for you guys that are new, if you're experienced or elite, just ignore it. But this is your brake hoods, and this is your drop. She's putting her hands in the drops. Notice how she has to curl. Shelly, you have to curl your hand up underneath there. That's going to be a challenge to descend like that. So we may have to look at another handlebar setup as you have to curl. That just doesn't look very comfortable to me. We'll have to discuss that, but that's something that we'll have to look at too. But other than that, man, she's sparkling on the bike as far as position goes. Nice cadence, good rhythm. A little bit of a locked out arm, and I have a sneaky suspicion that if you ride this and you do a lot of gravel riding, oh man, what's going to happen? That every bump that this wheel feels, it's going to radiate through the fork, up through the head tube, straight into the arms, and then to the shoulders. And you don't want that. So, but other than that, she seems to do very well with this bike, which is pretty impressive. So, we'll look back at it again. You can see that this is a very comfortable position for her, but it's not really a neutral position. It's kind of like if I was riding with no gloves on in this position, I'd be scared that my hand might roll off. But she handles the bike well. Impressive. Impressive. All right, so let's go to, that's just her position on the bike. Now let's look at a couple of situations. I wanted to watch Shelly. This is a park in Charlotte. I wanted to watch her descend and watch her position on the bicycle. Because before we get into something where we really want to work on the technical skills of cornering and off-cambered situations for gravel bikes, I want to see the ability for the athlete to be able to control the bicycle. So this is down a hill that's got several little giddy-ups to it. Pretty good, but she does look a little, what we want to call tentative. But that's why she came to us, because she does feel tentative on that bike. Do you notice, this is a little trick that we're going to teach her, that typical in roadie style, what Shelly does is that she turns her knees in towards the top tube. Like there, knee goes in that way, and knee goes in that way. And that's just kind of an aerodynamic feel for a lot of road cyclists, but we're going to tell you why that makes it a little bit more challenging when you're mountain biking and you're doing gravel riding. Pretty good, good rhythm. There's a little boom right there. All right. So, what we did is I had her just open the knees up. Instead of turning them in, the top tube is the bar that runs on the top. Instead of turning them in, turning them out. And that gives you a little bit more control. Let's see if she does it on this one. Still tucked in just a little bit. But you can see she has such great control of the bike.
All right, I got something for you.
Yep, and clearly I said, I've got something for you. So, you saw that. Now let's look at it, this one where after we taught her the little trick. Down. Now you notice her knees are pointed out just a tad. And this gives greater stability. See that knees? I guess I should have done it the other way, not pointing in. See her knees are starting to come out just a little bit? And what that does is that creates a lot of balance. It spreads the bike's width out a little bit so that she can have greater control. This is really important on a mountain bike and when you're descending on a gravel bike. Sometimes you really want to have a locked-in situation where you feel like you have more control. The more experienced gravel racers, they're fine with it. They don't even have to outboard their foot, which is what we'll discuss. But Shelly, I wanted to get her comfortable with stability on the bicycle. All right, we'll roll it. She just looks way more in control there. Arms are bent, nice and relaxed. We'll roll it back. And it's just subtle. It's just a little bit. But it's enough to look like, and plus, she came off the saddle a little bit, so she wasn't taking that pounding each time it hit those little bumps. Well done. I mean, that looks check right there. That's spot on. That's maybe a little bit forward, but that's okay because we had already discussed that. So, very good. Very, very good. Way better. And she picked it up fast, man. It was quick. All right. So let's go. We'll have her go down. Now I wanted to do it to where she went down a hill that was gravelly and I could watch her and see if she implemented some of the stuff that we talked about. Not too much gravel, but still it's there. And you see how she just moved her knees out just a little bit. And again, this is a basic move that I wanted her to feel like she had control of the bicycle. And she looks way better than she did at the very beginning. All right, let's flip to another one. This is the reverse angle. This is, I wanted to see her climb. She's actually a really good climber, so. Notice how she keeps her weight on that back wheel so that it doesn't slide out. Slides back just a little bit. You notice how her position has gone where she slides back a little bit in the saddle. That keeps that rear wheel on the gravel. And there is a delicate balancing act between, sometimes a lot of cyclists, especially road cyclists, when they're on a very steep climb, they have a tendency to slide forward in the saddle. If gravel you do that, your rear wheel is going to spin. So there's got to be a delicate balance of how far you slide back before you stop popping a wheelie, or versus too far forward and you start sliding out, the rear wheel starts sliding. So, climbing, she said, you could tell, not a big deal. We did want her to learn that. So, just to review, I wanted to make sure that Shelly was comfortable going down a descent and having balance. All right. Now we're going to fast forward a little bit to the next one. Good position. Knees are out just a little bit. I wanted control, and she says so much. Look, that was really sharp right there. Watch this when she goes by. It just looks completely balanced. That is very, very, very solid. When Weight's back a little bit. Off the saddle. Knees are spread out a little bit. That is awesome. Just, that's something that, I mean, you can't draw it up any better than that. I mean, you could, but that's a good job by Shelly right there. So we'll reverse it just a little bit so that you guys can see it. Hopefully you can. And see how her legs take the pounding, but the body seems very relaxed? Just because she's just a hair off the saddle. Great stuff. Great stuff. All right. Let's go to one more awesome skill. Curb. If you can jump a curb, then you can get over impediments on the gravel. So, same thing with Shelly. Coming at it. Now, she got off of it, the saddle, a little bit, but not as much as I would want. There's two skills to getting over, with your road bike, to getting over a curb. First of all is up out of the saddle, so you don't take the pounding. Flay the knees out just a little bit for balance and control, and then push. I tried to explain it like get off the back of the saddle, but some people don't get that. So I ask them just to kind of feel like they're pushing the handlebars forward. All right? On these, she got up out of the saddle, but she still took a hit. All right? Watch that again. A little bit out of the saddle, knees are out, just a tiny bit. And when I mean knees out, I'm just talking about coming back to neutral, not being in. Being here or like that. Turn off this alarm. Alrighty. Sorry about that. Now, let's get back to another video. Shows you. Alright, let's see her attack this time. Now, on this one, she came back to knees in.
Just didn't even...
You could do it like that, but it's going to beat you up over the long run. So that's what you don't want. You want to have a very subtle come over the curb.
Just
all right?
didn't even look nearly as...
Now, let's go to this
I
one.
was hoping this one's closed.
Now, I had her do that. That just looks rough. But I asked her to do that. It just looked like, you could tell. I mean, it just looked like, oh, I'm going to get beat up. And watch her knees. Her knees go into the top tube. Remember, the top tube is the top part of the bicycle. There we go. Her knees are going to go in. Watch. Already you could tell that she's like, okay, this doesn't feel nearly as comfortable as it did before. Just, you saw her arms. Arms took a beating. Backside took a beating. And the bicycle. You alright, Winnie? Down there? My dog, Winnie. Now, let's go to one where she nails it. I think this is the one. Let's see here. Yes. Now, big difference here. Big difference. You notice how Shelly, move this out of the way down here. Right here, focused, arms are bent. Little bend in the arm. She comes up out of the saddle. Her knees go out just a little bit. And then she pushes the bike forward. That's a lot of steps. All right, watch it. Turn off my... Look at that. Already setting up for a very good dismount. I mean, pushes the bike forward just a little bit. Out of the saddle. Well done. That was spot on. Cool. So hopefully you get that. I think we've got another one here. This is a little bit trickier. Notice how that on that one she did not. With Shelly, she had a hard time, and that was my fault. I was telling her to get off the back of the saddle. I said, nope, scrap that. Why don't you just feel like you're pushing the bike forward like you're going for a sprint? So she just goes vertical. Straight up and down. Good, but it's not a very commanding position on the bicycle. I mean, it works. But watch when we get her to do... push the bike a little bit. We'll see if she does it on this one. A little better. A little bit more of a push. Let's see here. And we're going to exaggerate the position. And she was surprised at how comfortable it felt, but I wanted her to visualize what it looked like to control yourself going over an object like that. Mountain biking, it's harder. It's easier. With a cross bike and a gravel bike, it's a little bit harder. So, and I told her exaggerate it. She was like, wow, this feels unique, but you see here that she is off the saddle. Her backside is off the saddle, and she's up. Hands are relaxed because you don't want a death grip. My biggest issue here is that she did slide her hands a little bit forward so that she can reach that brake hood. The brake hood is for control. You want that control. Feet are in a neutral position, which means by neutral that both pedals are perpendicular to the ground. Cool. We'll recast this. But she goes, I was surprised at how much command I felt like I had over the bicycle just in doing this exaggerated position. But that's what I want her to do. I want her to do, step number 1 is to relax her body. Step number 2, I wanted her to come up out of the saddle with her knees out a little bit. And then step number 3, have a neutral pedal position. And boom. And so those skills will then take us to the next step, which is going to be, she's chasing after a bug. Sorry about the wiggle. Going into a gravel section where it's off camber. But I wanted to make sure that we had this right. Shelly's a great cyclist, so it was really cool to watch her pick up on this. So yeah, that's going to do it. Chad Andrews, Total Cyclist Training Center, Coaching and Camps. If you have any questions, hit us up at info@totalcyclist.com and hit the subscribe button. Okay, have a good day, guys.